In recent times, the incidence of fuel tanker explosion has become a recurrent decimal in the country. Most times, it comes with great casualties, including loss of life, property, and severe environmental pollution. According to the Emergency Response Agency, on September 9th, 2024, it was recorded that about 48 people died in a tanker explosion, which collided with a truck carrying over 45 carters, which were also all burned alive. In April this year, it was also reported that a tanker explosion killed 4 people and over 60 vehicles burned along Eleme section of East-West Road of Rivers State. And just yesterday, here in the FCT, around Shehu Shagari Way, Maitama area of Abuja, around 5:50 p.m., another tanker explosion occurred after colliding with a commercial bus. We can go on and on and on. And so for these reasons, it has become expedient to look at ways of mitigating tanker explosions on this episode of the program. Welcome to Nigeria Today. I am Minna Daniels. Joining us on this discussion is Hygienist Major. He is Assistant Co-Marshal Operations, FRSC. Welcome to Nigeria Today.
Thank you very much.
We will also have Augustine Ebon, National Chairman, Petroleum Tanker Drivers, join us via Zoom when he's ready. Right now he's not. But let me commence discussions with our guest in the studio. And so, let us start with, knowing how you feel as co-marshal each time you get the news of a tanker explosion.
Well, like every other Nigerian, you won't be happy, and more so as a process owner in terms of ensuring that lives and properties are preserved on our roads. It's not always the best of times for me. Each time I scroll through our incident portal and I see cases of crashes, not just tankers, but crashes generally, involving loss of life. I'm always in a sober mood, and it's not what anybody prays for. Yeah.
It's a sad situation, and while we wait for Augustine to join us, because I really want to find out from him what exactly causes some of these problems by his colleagues. But would you like to share with us some of the stories of tanker explosion while on duty?
Well, between precisely, I just checked through my record before coming to this studio. Between July this year, we have had 43 incidences of crashes involving tankers. Out of that 43, 16 of them involved fire outbreak. And I want to correct our terminology here. When you say explosion, what we have is not an explosion. It's not an outright explosion, but just that this crashes involves incidences of fire if it occurs. Because when you say tanker explosion, if a tanker explosion happens here, I think the whole community will go in for it. So it's just cases of fire incidents involving crashes that has to do with tankers. That's what we have been having in recent times. And like I said, 45 incidences within July to date, including that of yesterday that happened in Abuja. And all of them occur because there is spillage in the course of the crash. Let me also put it on record. All over the world, tankers do crash. But what makes the significant difference is that in other climes, when these tankers roll over, they do not spill their products. It is the spilling of the products that is responsible for the incidences of fire that we are getting. And also remember that our regional and urban planning is not always the best. We've had cases where you have a spillage and the product actually moves like a stream and gets to get a woman frying akara somewhere, and it just catches fire. So these are what we have been battling with. That should the crash occur, it should not involve spillage. As long as there's no spillage, you won't get those cases of fire incidents that we have been having in recent times or even before. Yes.
But what do you attribute the incessant accidents, in your own words, to?
Well, I think if you look at it broadly speaking, a lot of factors comes into play. But predominantly, the human factor takes preeminence in all these things, because we are looking about the activities involving the driver itself, who is the key element here in the whole process. And we also have the issues of environmental factors that has to do with the state of the road, of where these tankers ply. And of course, we also have cases of mechanical factors being responsible. But I would like our central focus to actually be on the human factor, because it has to do with the attitudinal predisposition of our drivers when they are behind the wheel. If you are carrying such a heavy-duty vehicle with the products like that, it is expected that the person will drive within the stipulated speed limit, and also be very, very careful, bearing in mind that you are carrying a highly inflammable substance. But that is not the case. At times you even see them dragging the road with other tankers or even other trucks, as if it is a competition that they are doing on the road. So it is all this that culminates in what we are seeing: cases of speeding, cases of not observing the safe to load procedures from the depot. Because if we have the observed all those safety precautions, by now we should not still be talking of cases of spillage, because there is a valve that is supposed to actually take care of it, the safety valves, the manhole safety valves, that is supposed to ensure that even if the tanker crashes, that the products do not in the spill. Vehicle. Yes. Then, like I said also, some of these drivers, you find that they are even under the influence of alcohol in most cases. And most astonishingly is that when you look at these drivers, by your own judgment, you just see that this young man should not actually be behind this wheel, because they are too young. Some of them are very, very young, and you now ask yourself how. I think experience should be a very important factor before they could be allowed.
Let me cut in there. Talking about attitudinal disposition,
yes,
of the use of drivers.
The road. Yes, on the use of the road.
Yes. Could you please tell us what the rules and the laws say, about the conditions of driving trucks of this nature? Talking about the mental state, the age, and what have you.
Like I said, you discover that if you're looking at the age, for example, yes, the law says anybody in Nigeria above 18 years, you are licensed, you could be licensed to drive. But when it comes to driving articulated trucks like this, we do not expect to see just an 18-year-old or 19-year-old or 20-year-old. It should be somebody that have gathered experience of not less than 30 years behind the wheels, you understand? So that you can actually know the risk involved in operating this kind of then you have a lot of traffic rules and regulations that is expected to know and abide with. A clear case is what happened yesterday. The case of yesterday was yesterday. The driver was navigating a roundabout, but he navigated roundabout on speed. If he had navigated it slowing down, the truck would not severe, and that crash could not have occurred. But he navigated it with speed. And the rule says that when you are approaching a roundabout, you need to slow down, you need to give way to traffic on your left. And again, you also look at the speed limits of these trucks when they are on load and when they are not on load. These are some of those rules that they negate that is responsible for what we are saying. The rule also says you should not be under the influence of alcohol when you are driving. And this they do not also obey. We've had cases where we breathalyze them and you discover that they are under the influence of alcohol. So these are some of those little foxes that destroys the vine. Yes.
How do you check them for alcohol, and how frequent do you do it? Because there are lots of tanker drivers out there plying the roads every day.
Let me say this. It is important for Nigerians to know. The Federal Road Safety Corps, when we started having these increasing cases of crashes involving tankers, way back in 2014, we came up with a program called Safe to Load. And that Safe to Load had to do with, first and foremost, we trained our operatives on it. Some even went abroad for the training, and we came back and we started domesticating what they went abroad to learn. And we had to post our officers to all the tank farms across the country, be it Lagos, Port Harcourt, and all the places where we have tank farms. You have FRSC operatives there. What are they doing there? To ensure that minimum safety standards are maintained, including ensuring that even the man that wants to drive that vehicle or that drove the vehicle to the depot is licensed to drive. Now, in the course of that, we discovered that some of them do not even have licenses. And we had to engage the union, National Union of Petroleum Tanker Drivers. We engaged them seriously, and they cooperated with us. We went to the extent of establishing special driving license centers for them, so that at least we can make sure that they are licensed to drive. Okay. Now, we also started checking these vehicles. You discover that the tires of some of these vehicles that come to the depot to load is just nothing to write home about. We developed a checklist that we're using for all those things, and our operatives use those checklists, including also breathalyzing them in those tank farms to ensure that the man is not under the influence of alcohol. So that is what the Safe to Load meant. And over a period of time, we started having results. Until recently, when we started having these rising incidences, hitherto, you would have noticed that there was a downward trend in crashes involving tankers on our highways. And we are not resting on our oars. We're stepping up this thing. We are even taking it to the next level, because some of these checklists we have graduated from manual checklists to now electronic automated checklists that we can just have an iPad on your hand and you do all those things. And if we get those things right, you notice these things are going to trend down significantly. That is one of the measures that we put in place to checkmate all this. Plus our regular daily enforcement patrol that is always ongoing, where we flag down all these drivers and give them tickets as the case may be. We may have case to even deter some from loading at all. On a daily basis, there are some tankers that do not load because they did not meet that minimum safety standards.
Okay, Assistant Commercial, we'll have to pause now for a little breather, and when we return, we'll be looking at some of the measures that you go through, to ensure that you nip this in the bud, and of course some of the punishments you mete out to those found culpable. And of course we'll be listening to some voices from the streets now who are also bothered about the situation, as put together by Suleiman.
One of the major causes of tanker explosion is carelessness of the driver, and I think that's the major one. That's the major one, because most times there are issues in the tanker that have not been detected or checked.
Reckless driving by the drivers, which can be caused by maybe taking hard drugs before being on the steering. Drivers should take measures. So before you go on that steering, you should be sure that you are not on any hard drugs. You understand? You should make sure that you are not feeling sleepy. If you need a time to rest, If you've been on the steering for a long time and you want to rest, you can just park by the side. It's sleeping, it's nature. You can just have 30 minutes, 1 hour to rest before you continue.
Those oil marketers or the fuel station owners, and discuss with them the way to handle the situation in order to prevent future occurrences.
The driver might lose track from the road, and before you know, he rams into like 5-8 vehicles, and he explodes, and you understand. So it is a very unfortunate incident. So above all, even if the tankers are safe, I believe that these things should always move at night.
All right, Assistant Commercial, you heard the views of Nigerians out there on the street. Someone said, one actually caught my attention, the one that said tankers and vehicles of that nature should move at night. So what's your reaction to those thoughts out there?
Incidentally, that is even very more dangerous, in the sense that I also had somebody who said at times they veer off because they slip off the steering. Now, you notice that driving at night has its inherent dangers. You can't cheat nature. At a point in time, even way back when we were all students, and you want to do TDB, as we used to call it in those days, you notice that at a point in time, you are with your textbook, but you have dozed off. That is how it is behind the wheels also. If you are driving all through night, there is a time it will reach, you discover that you just doze off the steering. And that's when you see a truck or a tanker just veer into the bush, nobody with him. You now ask yourself, what happened? The road is even swept. It's simply because the man dozed off. Again, at night, considering the security situation in the country today, you cannot advocate that they should be moving at night. That is not the best. Even if that truck has a problem on the road, the mechanical help is not going to be easy to come by. If it also crashes, then emergency response is not also going to be that easy. The time lag between when it occurred and when the response will come is going to be high, and that makes the much difference in terms of who survives and who does not survive. So FRSC have continued to advocate that we do away with night travels. If you notice when these tankers do crash, in most cases, you notice that if it is a tanker that left Lagos and is going to something like Sokoto and it's going to be in the wee hours of the next day. Fatigue have set in. The man is sleeping off the road. So I do not, and we will never support the issue of night driving. It's just that we are in a democratic setting, freedom of movement, freedom of everything. But then ours is to educate the motoring public that driving at night is not the best, considering all these inherent dangers that we have highlighted.
Okay, what punishment do you usually mete out to people that you found culpable, tanker drivers that is?
Not just tanker drivers. Let's not just label them because we have, it's just about generally infractions on our highways. Each of them has its own punishments. If you overspeed, the punishment is different. If you don't have a license, the punishment is also different. If you are not using seat belts, the punishment is also different. So they could be given tickets to go and make a token fine. Now, those fines today does no longer serve as a deterrent, considering the inflation rate and what the amount says. For example, failure to use seat belt, you get yourself 3,000 naira. And if you ask me now, what is 2,000 naira? 3,000 naira today, equate it, you will know what it is. Now, if you use phone while driving, you get yourself 4,000 naira. If you drive dangerously, that's where the big one is. You could be booked as much as 50,000 naira, as the case may be. Excessive speeding, all those ones attract 10,000 naira and things like that. But I don't even want to look at what these fines are. I am looking at how much premium do we put on life in this country. That is the most important thing. It's about how much can you equate your life for? How much can you equate the life of all these other road users who suffer the consequence of your negligence, action or inaction? if it happens. And that should be at the back of our mind.
All right, speaking of negligence, actions and inactions, what do you say to the situation where there is a tanker accident and then there's a spill and Nigerians begin to scoop fuel? At the end of the day, a whole lot of people, get to die. Yes.
Again, I ask, an average Nigerian, how much premium do you put on your life? Because I do not know how you see fire and you are putting your hand inside the fire. A petroleum product flowing on the road is a disaster waiting to happen. Yet, you see Nigerians going to scoop fuel in such places. But again, it's also an indication of the high level of ignorance in this country, because other climes you won't see it like that. So I want to use this opportunity to appeal to Nigerians. I do not know how much you are going to sell that product that you are scooping. What difference is it going to really make in your life that you will endanger your life to that extent? It's just a case of two buckets hitting themselves and it will spark off fire. It's just a case of another careless driver wanting to meander through the flood of the petroleum products on the road, and the exhaust will just ignite fire. And that was what happened in the case of the crash we had about a week ago or 2 weeks ago in Lapai, and between Lapai and Hagai, where the truck tried to meander through after the crash of a tanker, and it was already spilling through. And on getting to that place, of course, the exhaust was what caused the fire, ignited the fire. And those cows and those number of human beings, young boys who were moving from the northern part, of course, towards the southern part, looking for greener pasture. And that was how they ended their life on the road. So you now look at it and say, why must we? And it has happened over and over, and we have not learned. And I was taught that learning is said to have taken place when there is a permanent change in behavior. So Nigerians have not, as a result of experience, I must complete it. We have had experiences in time past, Nigerians have not learned anything. So it is worrying, and I think we all need to lend our voices in condemning it, and we need more enlightenment programs in this regard from all corners, so that each time it happens, rather than going there to scoop fuel, we should stay far away, even with your vehicle.
Okay, Commercial, what needs to be done to mitigate this challenge from the government, from the tanker drivers themselves, from everybody?
Okay, let me start from the government side. I think, and I want to appreciate what the government has been doing, both past and present. Today, you look at our highways, you know that there's a great improvement in our highways. Government is doing, the Honorable Minister and his team, they are doing so much, and we still much more, Nigerians still expect much more. We still need some of these roads that are trunk A roads where all these tankers do ply, to still get same measure of rehabilitation so that we can reduce these crashes to the barest minimum, because we can't rule out completely the environmental factor which has to do with bad road. But again, the irony of the matter is that even the good roads are also now causing crashes. When people get to roads that are good, they empty their speedometer. And that's why speed accounts for over 50% of all the crashes we witness along our highways. Now, having said that, the next thing is we look at the driver themselves and other road users also who are involved. I think NUPENG need to do more in terms of in-house mechanisms to ensure that you don't just allow any young boy who is not married, who is not a family man, to even handle your truck in the first instance. Because I reasonably believe that if the person has a family, that the person will. So drivers need to be more careful, need to stay off alcohol, need to observe all traffic rules and regulations, and need to cut down their speed, especially when on load.
Okay, thank you so much. This is exactly where the curtain will draw on this episode of Nigeria Today on Internet 24. But let me appreciate our guest, hygienist of Midday, Assistant Commercial Operations, FRSC. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
And of course, to you, our dear viewer, Thank you for always being part of this. Remember, the program Nigeria Today airs weekdays at 7:30 p.m. on NTA News 24. You can also watch a repeat at 10 p.m. in the night, as well as other episodes on www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. I am Minna Daniels. Thank you for watching.